What's going on, everyone? Chase Daniel here, back with another episode of Going Long. And today, none other than my guy, Saints legend, gonna be Pro Football Hall of Famer, Drew Brees. How you doing, man?
Good, neighbor. Doing good.
Yeah, for people that are listening, Drew and I are in the same city, on the same street, and I could probably hit driver three-wood down to his house, but he's joining me today live from San Diego.
If you hit driver three-wood to my house, you would hit four other houses on the way here.
I probably would. Yeah, seriously. If I can get the roll down the street, then I'm good.
Yeah.
How you doing, man? Tell everyone what's going on. How you living? What's your day-to-day life like right now, man? That's what people really
day-to-day life this week is studying for finals. We got like Algebra 2 finals and science and history finals and, finals for the kids getting ready for Christmas break. But all good, man. Just, the domesticated life.
Dude, I feel you. We literally, I mean, our kids right now, we have 7, 5, and 3, and they're in first grade. And some of this homework that is coming on first grade, I'm like, I need to study up. Like, the Travis Kelce has that show, Are You Smarter Than Like a Third Grader? I feel like I couldn't answer half the stuff.
Yeah. Let me just give you a hint. Chat GPT or I get all my information just by typing it in.
Where was that when we were in freaking college? When we were they write all lectures.
We actually had to read. We actually had to read books. We actually had to go find the information on our own. Look in the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Get the Cliff Notes. That's funny. All right, so we're gonna start in high school. So this says you were born in Dallas. I feel like, first of all, just to let everyone know, I played with Drew for 5 years, was his longest tenured backup in New Orleans. I feel like I know a lot about you because we still hang every once in a while. I still beat you in golf every once in a while. I did not know you were born in Dallas, Texas. Is that correct?
That's correct.
When did you move down to Austin?
I moved down to Austin after first grade. So 7 years old, the summer after my first grade year. Both my parents got new jobs down there, so moved to Austin.
And then you went to Austin Westlake, which everyone knows is the second best high school in the state of Texas behind South Lake Carroll, where I went. And you played baseball, basketball, and football. Were you a varsity basketball player too?
Yeah, I lettered in all three. By the way, buddy, did you know that both of our high schools are playing in the state championship game this weekend? You guys are 6A Division II. We are 6A Division I, playing for the state championship in Texas Stadium on Saturday.
The largest classification.
Dude, in back-to-back games, you guys are playing at 3, we're playing at 7. Just an FYI. I was thinking about going.
Let's go.
I know. But, I played. Yeah, baseball was my first love and really the sport that I thought I would play, long term. Basketball was number 2, and then ironically, football was third. I loved football, but I just didn't think it would really take me anywhere. My freshman year, I was the starting B team quarterback on my freshman.
Yes.
So freshman B team, so fourth string. We were 8-2. We had a strong season, running 36 F pass, Y corner. And then JV year, I almost quit football my sophomore year, going into my JV season.
Why?
Well, I thought I wasn't going to get a chance to play. I was sitting behind a guy named Johnny Rogers, whose brother was Jay Rogers. He was the starting quarterback.
Yes.
Jay would go on and play at Indiana University and is actually a D-line coach in the NFL.
Coaching. Yep.
And then, ironically, his brother, Jeff Rogers, was the center. Jeff Rogers is a special teams coach in the NFL right now. So Johnny, so it's like football family. Their dad was the recruiting coordinator for University of Texas. Like Johnny was the heir apparent. He was going to be the starting quarterback on varsity, and I was never going to play. I was never going to see the field. So I'm like, why am I wasting my time playing football? I'm going to go concentrate on basketball, but certainly baseball. Like baseball is my ticket, right? And I remember literally pulling into my garage. My mom picked me up from practice. She could see I was upset. I get home, it's like middle of training camp. And I'm like, Mom, I think I'm going to quit football. She's like, why would you do that? I'm like, I'm never going to play, got Johnny in front of me. He's a stud. I'll never see the field. Why am I wasting my time? And she's like, do you love it? And I said, yes, I love it. I love being with the guys. I love the team atmosphere. I said, I just feel like I'm wasting my time. she said, well, you never know when your opportunity will come. So just stick it out during training camp, stick it out this season, then you can reevaluate at that time. And literally a week later, we played in a scrimmage against Killeen that going into the start of the season, and Johnny tore his ACL. So now he's out and I'm the starter. And then that was it. I was the starter.
And you went 28, if I'm reading this correctly, 2 seasons as a starter, 28-0-1, and you beat Abilene Cooper, who we also beat in the playoffs, 55-15 in the 96 title game.
The game was tied 7-7 at halftime.
No, wait, what? Are you serious? What happened?
We rolled. We rolled them in the second half.
Jeez,
at Texas Stadium. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, that's unbelievable. And then so after that, talk to me about the recruiting process. Just like for me growing up in the state of Texas, all I wanted to do was go to the University of Texas. They never recruited me, and you weren't highly recruited either coming out of high school. Did you know after you like senior year that you wanted to play football in college? Or did you want to maybe try baseball as well?
Well, so I described that scenario with Johnny. Johnny gets hurt, so then I become the starting quarterback for JV. That's my sophomore year. We have a great year, 10-0. The varsity actually went to state that year in 5A and lost. But the next year rolling around, man, we had a great team. Probably one of the best teams we'd ever had at Westlake, 1995. And then I was the starting quarterback. And man, we rolled. We were undefeated all the way till the third round of the playoffs. And then I tore my ACL in a playoff game down in Alice in South Texas. And when I tore my ACL, I mean, first off, that's a serious injury, even now, but 25 years ago, man, it was a lot more unpredictable as far as how you would come back from an ACL, MCL injury. I tore both. And so, I was really questioning my future in football, but also, this was December of 1995. So I now missed basketball season and I missed baseball season. And that's my junior year. That's when you usually get recruited. So now all of a sudden I'm not getting recruited. Nobody knows how I'm going to come back off this knee injury. And I'm not, you and I, Chase, we're part of the 6 foot and under club, right? Like not a lot of people clamoring to go out and recruit 6 foot quarterbacks at that time. Right. So 6 foot, 170 pounds, like there was nothing impressive about me. And so going into my senior year of football, I thought, man, like more so than anything, it was just that mindset of, man, I'm not going to let this defeat me. I'm not going to let this beat me. I'm going to come back better than I was before. And so that was a big journey for me, like with my faith, just like physically, I gained 20 pounds. I had to overcome just like that whole rehab process. And so going into that senior year, then I felt like I was, really empowered, but also like, man, I got a lot of people to prove wrong. I got a big chip on my shoulder here. And so then we go 16-0, we win a state championship, but still in my mind, I'm just thinking, man, I'm just trying to get to baseball season because now I'm going to blow it out in baseball.
Wow. So even after you won the state title game, you weren't even thinking you were thinking baseball.
I wasn't getting recruited until literally the week that we were getting ready for the state championship game, December 22nd of 1996. I go to practice one day. It's a cold day. We're practicing in our home stadium. And that's when 2 recruiters showed up. It was a guy from University of Kentucky and Purdue.
Yep.
And I remember my offensive coordinator came over to me and said, hey, they're here to see you. And I was like, really?
Oh, wow.
But in my mind still, like, look, man, we're Texas kids, right? Like you grew up idolizing, going to University of Texas. I wanted to go to Texas A&M. Both my parents were Aggies. And, A&M always had a really strong reputation when it came to defense, defensive ends, cornerbacks, running backs. They didn't have a really strong quarterback reputation. So in my mind, I was thinking, that would be cool. They had a great baseball program. I wanted to be a 2-sport athlete. So I was like, look, I'll go to A&M. I'll play baseball.
Yep.
And I'll be kind of like this 12th man, walk on the football team. I had a little bit of that, as my dream. But they did not recruit me. They did not recruit me. So, and none of the Texas schools did, for that matter.
Yeah, me too. Why Purdue?
Well, number one, academics. Honestly, when I first heard Purdue, this is no joke. When I first heard Purdue was recruiting me, I thought they were Ivy League. Like, I didn't know where Purdue was. I didn't know Purdue was in the Big Ten, but Purdue had a great academic reputation.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was thinking, man, I'm getting an Ivy League education. But then I sort of realized, no, they're in the Big Ten. So now, man, you're playing Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State.
Oh yeah.
Wisconsin. Like, the Big Ten at that point, like, was coming off of 2 national championships. Wisconsin had whooped the Pac-10 in the Rose Bowl a couple years in a row. So you're like, dude, we're like, this is the best conference in football, and it's traditionally been a ground and pound, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, style of football.
Yeah.
But Joe Tiller is bringing the spread offense to the Big Ten, and we're going to throw it 50 times a game, and we want you to come and throw it 50 times a game in the Big Ten. I'm like, oh man, sign me up. So I'm like, great education, throw it 50 times, playing the Big Ten. Let's go.
Dude, and I'm looking at your numbers, which I know like are out of this world at Purdue. So you played 4 years. Did you start all 4?
No, I started 3. I backed up.
Started 3. So you set I'm reading some of your accolades. You set school and conference record ranking on the Big Ten career list at the end of your career. You were first in completions with over 1,000. Just like let that sink in. First in completions, first in passing yards, 11,792 passing yards in 3 seasons. So you're pretty much averaging 4,000 passing yards a season. First in passing attempts, now you're second. Passing touchdowns, 90. God, dog. And total offense. I mean, there's a lot that we can talk about at Purdue, but did you know let me say, what point did you know that you wanted to play at the next level with all that success in a conference with those big powerhouses, like you said?
I mean, still, I didn't go to Purdue saying, hey, this is my ticket to the NFL. Like, I honestly, I was like,
yeah.
I'm 4 years. I'm going to get a great education. I'm going to play 4 years of football. I'm still in my mind saying I'm going to walk on the baseball team as well. I really wanted to be a 2-sport athlete in college. But after my freshman year, it was evident that, hey, you're on the track to be the starting quarterback, but they're bringing in college or junior college guys, and they're starting to get some pretty big recruits, because we had a really good year in '97, my freshman year, gone 9-3, first bowl game in 15 years. We totally just blew up, the Big Ten in yards per game and passing yards. And so now all of a sudden we're just getting a bunch of attention. So I had to really fight for my job that whole offseason. Like, spring ball was me winning my job from a JUCO guy that they brought in and a highly touted freshman. So I didn't walk on the baseball team. And then I had a really, really good year my sophomore year. So my first year as a starter, we went 9-4. We beat Kansas State, who was number 4 in the country, down in the Alamo Bowl.
Yep.
And then everybody going into my junior year was like, you're the favorite for the Heisman. And are you going to leave early? I'm like, leave early to go where? And they're like, to the NFL. And that was honestly the first time I thought, man, like I have an opportunity to go play in the NFL. It was really not on my radar. I was just so focused on being a student and
being present,
winning the starting job, for that matter.
So when people told you that, right, and obviously you stayed throughout that, when it was time for you to prepare for the draft, right? And I want to get into this because I was a shorter quarterback as well. There weren't many guys like you. And I say like you, meaning shorter quarterbacks at that time that had sustained success. Doug Flutie, who you were with, would be the one that I gravitate to. I'm like, he's probably the only one. Did NFL teams or college coaches all bring that up when you were recruited? Because I still think of you as like the first one to sort of break through that barrier of 6 foot and under guys being able to play in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, I'd say this, like that offense that I played in college really required athleticism, because we were one back or spread. And so a lot of our run game was read option. So we were kind of one of the first ones running read option. So we're running inside zone and you're reading the end, right?
Reading it.
Or we're going to run speed option off of the end out of shotgun. Or we're just going to line up an empty, and we would call QB draw 8 times a game. And if we got shell and a good box, right? And we had a hat for a hat, I would run the ball. If we didn't, or if it was a pressure look, I would check to pass. So like I rushed for 1,000 yards in college. Like people don't.
Wow.
Like, people don't know that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like rushed for 600 yards my senior year.
That's a lot.
So we were like, I was a big part of the run game, right? So it required somebody who had some athleticism. And so your typical 6'5" stand in the pocket, just throw the ball, that didn't fit what we were trying to do with the offense from a run game perspective. So for me, like, as you know, man, like playing the quarterback position is about it's great decision making, it's the ability to process the game, it's the ability to lead, it's the ability to problem solve. And then also that within that problem solving is, okay, I gotta like extend plays, I've got to make plays with my legs, both in the run game or just buying time, So like to me, that was how the QB position was meant to be played. Unfortunately, I think the stigma was that, hey, once you get to the NFL, it's more of this traditional pro style offense or West Coast offense where, hey, you're just standing in the pocket, delivering the ball. And, the athleticism part of it wasn't really a big part of the game for the quarterback position. So we're looking for kind of the bigger, prototypical looking guys.
Yeah. No, that makes sense because like that, just like when I came with the Saints in 09, I'm like, oh, like Drew's doing it. All right, he's repping for like the shorter guys who need that more athleticism. Now you see guys like Kyler Murray, like they're all over the place. So you are selected 32nd overall, which at the time was second round in the 2001 draft. You were, and I didn't realize this, you were the second quarterback off the board behind Michael Vick, who was also 6 foot and under club. So you started your career with the Chargers. Don't want to spend a ton of time there, but you threw for 12,348 yards, 80 touchdowns, named to your first Pro Bowl. And this is one of the other things I didn't know when I was doing some research. You received the Comeback Player of the Year in 2004. What was those first 4 seasons like? We'll talk about 05 in a second. What were those first 4 seasons like for you as a pro?
I mean, look, lots of ups and downs. When I came in as a rookie, I think it was clear what my role was going to be. They had signed Doug Flutie as a free agent from Buffalo. New general manager had come in, and look, it had been some tough years for the San Diego Chargers. They were dead last the year before. They were 1-15 the year before. That was the whole Ryan Leaf debacle. So they drafted Leaf number 2 in 1998. So Leaf was there 98, 99, 2000. Absolute disaster, right?
Yes.
So they were 1-15 in 2000, dead last. So they had the first pick in the draft. And if you recall, they traded out of that pick with the Falcons to number 5. So the Falcons jumped up to 1, took Vic. And the Chargers took LaDainian Tomlinson with the 5th pick. And then they sat there with the first pick in the second round and took me. Jeez. So their first 2 picks with John Butler's first draft, LaDainian Tomlinson.
Wow.
And in that trade, they also got Tim Dwight, receiver in return.
The receiver. Absolutely.
From the Falcons. And then we got future picks who ended up being key players for us. But it was one of those like, man, we're rebuilding, right? Like the Chargers were rebuilding, starting over, right? Hey, let's go get a veteran quarterback, Doug Flutie. Let's draft the future quarterback in me. Let's get the running back, right? So they were putting all the pieces together. So like that first year, it was obvious, hey, I'm going to back up Doug Flutie. And I loved I'll say this, Doug Flutie was Patrick Mahomes before Patrick Mahomes. And he'll never get the credit that he deserves. But he was one of the most revolutionary players ever. One of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen play the game. I saw him do things I still to this day I don't see guys do.
It's unbelievable.
He played every level of professional football, USFL, CFL, NFL. He was a punt returner, for goodness sake, for the Chicago Bears back in like the late 80s, right? Like he was an unbelievable athlete, 5'9.5", $185. I never saw him touch a weight in the weight room. He did push-ups, sit-ups, and he played basketball and he ran.
Are you serious?
That's how he stayed in shape. But he was just like a gym. He was just a gym rat. Like he was just like a junkie, when it came to just sports and like his awareness and his level of competitiveness. And like, you talk about playing with a chip on your shoulder, man. But like he did things at a time, like he was the first guy I saw throw a back shoulder. And so I learned about throwing back shoulder throws from Doug Flutie.
Wow.
Doug Flutie would backpedal a 7-step drop.
Yes. I remember watching. I'm like, you're backpedaling?
But like he would do, and he could manipulate defenses and he could throw guys open, and his timing and rhythm and like all these things that I learned from him. So that was the greatest thing that could have happened to me in my career, was backing up Doug Flutie for a year. And look, that's what I think is missing in today's game is the ability for a lot of these young guys to have the chance to just sit behind like a really solid
Develop.
to learn, develop, grow. Okay. But then we, Mike Riley, our head coach, got fired after that first year, and they brought in Marty Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer was like, basically every job is up for grabs. We are competing all off season. So Doug Flutie and I competed for the starting job going into the 02 season, and I won that job. So then Doug Flutie backed me up for 3 seasons. Now, during that period of time, man, we had ups and downs, like moments where I played great. And a lot of it was, man, I'm still figuring it out, but I'm a good enough athlete and like I know how to win.
For sure.
I know how to compete, but like still learning the nuances of the game, throwing way too many picks, doing bonehead,
yeah, you're learning the game.
I get benched 3 times during that stretch where Doug Flutie replaces me.
3 different times? What were those like how did that affect your confidence?
Oh, dude, I like moments where I lost my confidence. I was like, man, I was pressing, trying to make plays that weren't there, trying to do too much. And
how'd you come back from that?
Well, it was really taking like a hard look at everything that I was doing to prepare for the game. So like the 03 season was the season that was really, really tough. So like if I was going back, so 01, I'm the backup, 02, I win the job. We go 8-8. So like keep in mind here, we're 1-15.
Yeah.
Flutie's year, we're 5-9. My first year, we're 8-8. So like we're trending up. And so going into the 03 season, like huge expectations, man, we're on the cusp. Here we go. And we finished 4-12. And that was the year where, man, I really started to press when things didn't go, start going well. And look, we had some culture issues at times, like in the locker room.
For sure.
But man, I pressed. I didn't play well. I turned the ball over way too much. I got benched 3 times. Like I had shouting matches on the sideline with Marty Schottenheimer and in his office and in the locker room. Like it was one of those things where like I think I knew that he believed in me. I also knew that he had to coach me hard. Like he was coaching me hard and he was trying to get the best out of me. He was always going to do what was in the best interest of the team. But through that, I got benched, right? So going into the 04 season, I was like, man, like that's when they went and drafted Phillip Rivers. I remember sitting at my exit meeting with Marty Schottenheimer after the 03 season. He basically said, look, Drew, I believe in you, but there's people in this organization that don't. And I'm telling you right now, they're either going to go sign a free agent or they're going to draft a guy really, really high because we had the 4th pick. No, we had the 1st pick in the draft.
That was the year we told you that in the exit meeting.
That was the year we drafted Eli Manning. If you remember, first pick.
Yep.
Rivers was drafted 4th to the Giants, and then they swapped because Eli Manning said, I don't want to go to the Chargers. It's dysfunctional.
You've seen everything.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, this was a crazy time. So they said, look, guys in this building, they don't believe in you. They're going to go draft somebody else. I believe in you, but you're going to have to earn it. I'm just telling you, like, you're going to have to compete your ass off. I said, great. Just tell me there's a chance. That's all I want. So that offseason is when I went out and found some incredible mentors. Tom House, Todd Durkin, right? And I committed myself to doing everything I could to be the best that I could be, like looking at my diet, my sleep habits, my preparation, my recovery, like my leadership. Like I became a much more assertive leader after that year. And because I needed to make sure everybody knew that I was the guy, right? So it's like every day when I step in that building, they need to know that I'm the guy, regardless of who they bring in or what the noise is, right? So then basically going into that training camp, it was you are competing against Doug Flutie and Phillip Rivers for the starting job. But I win the job. Again. So it was like constantly fighting for your job, right? Which look, I don't mind because I kind of did that in college. Like when you're used to having to come to work every day, and Chase, you know this too, man. Like every day you come in with a mindset that you have something to prove.
Prove yourself. Prove yourself.
And you never take it for granted. You're always grateful for the opportunity, but you also like know that, man, you got to rise to the occasion. When it's your time, when you get your opportunity, you got to make the most of it. So that was basically the approach I took, and I won the job again. And then 04 was kind of like the breakout year. That was when I won
comeback player of the year.
We were 12-4, made my first Pro Bowl. I was at the Pro Bowl with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. It's pretty cool,
Well, and then so I mean, think about it. You're telling me like, and I haven't heard some of these stories before, which is amazing. Like you pretty much said, hey, this is the off season for me to make or break it. I need to fully commit myself and do everything you can. And then you see the success, and then that's where it launches the rest of your career, sort of.
Yeah. So then going into 05, we have another great year. And now I've kind of established myself as like, hey, I'm going to be the starting quarterback here for a long time.
Yep.
I was at the end of my contract. And so basically going in, after that 05 season was going to be a decision that the Chargers had to make. Like, hey, Phillip Rivers has been sitting here on the bench for 2 years. Do we trade him, re-sign Drew? Like Drew's been our guy, right? Taking us to the playoffs, Pro Bowl player, and then that's when I got hurt.
So week 16 too, at the end of your year. So you had one game left before your contract year. You tear, a 360-degree tear of the labrum. Everyone's heard about it. 50% of tear of your rotator cuff trying to jump on a fumble. Just quickly, we've told the story 1,000 times. Take me inside your head as soon as you feel the tear, and as soon as you dive into it.
Well, it's crazy because I knew exactly what I'd done, which I never had that injury before. I had labrum injury before on my other shoulder, but when I got up out of the pile, my shoulder was still dislocated, so it was out of place, and my arm was stuck like this. And so as I'm walking on, your body just kind of goes numb because you're in shock.
Yep.
Did that really just happen? Like, why me? Why now? Like all those things, right? But I'm walking off the field. I'm going, this is the last time I put on a Charger uniform, and I'm like, maybe the last time I ever play football.
You're saying that as you're saying it's the last time I am in the Charger. You knew right away.
Right away, for sure. Wow. And I get to the sideline, and the team doctor comes over, and he just, he kind of, he's like, hey, just bite down, man. Like, slips the arm back in. And then I walk into the locker room, and they start doing X-rays and scheduling MRIs, and I'm just in shock. Like I'm just sitting there going, how in the world did this just happen? And this is the end of it.
And then that's when, obviously, you think you had surgery with Andrews, correct?
Yeah, like 5 days later.
Wow, 5 days later. So then, this is sort of in your story, and I'm sure for me too, it's like this, in my opinion, is the most pivotal part of your career, right? Because not only do you tear your shoulder to shreds, you're a free agent who had been playing at a really high level up to that point, but you're not even sure you can throw again. You go 5 days later, have a major surgery. You've told me what Andrews has meant to you. You go through the rehab process. The rehab process was crazy. Talk to me about the free agency process at that point. Because I remember when you signed with the Saints in 06, you couldn't even throw a football in training camp or going up to it. Talk to me about that recruiting process from Sean, and obviously everyone knows Miami, stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know what a lot of people expected. I think everybody knew that the injury was really, really bad. And I think they needed to see that I was going to have a chance to come back and play again. Right. So I have surgery. It was like early January the 4th or something like that of 2006. And then really the next 2 months, free agency doesn't start until mid-March. So it's like 2 months of where am I going to be at that time? And then what will the doctor and the physical therapist be able to communicate to teams about like my progress and then where I'm going to be. So as we were leading up to free agency, it was crickets, bro. Like nobody.
Who was your agent at the time?
Tom Condon was my agent my whole career. But look, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm still hoping that I'm going back to the Chargers, right? Like Chargers, hang with me, believe in me, I'm going to come back.
Did they reach out?
It became obvious probably like late February that they were moving on. They basically said, look, they were looking for an excuse. Like they had invested a fourth pick in the draft on Phillip Rivers 2 years previous. Like he needed to see the field if he was going to see the field, right? And so they basically told me.
But for you were playing your best ball of your career though, and so that had to make you feel some type of way.
Yeah, but they're also saying we're certainly not going to invest a bunch of money in a contract to
Makes
a guy
sense.
not sure is going to come back and be able to play. And so it's time to move on. Drew, you can come back and be the backup. So they offered me a backup contract, is what the Chargers offered me.
What?
They offered me a backup contract, and
Oh my God.
but it was very much like, we know you're not going to, you're probably not going to take this, but here it is.
That's disrespectful to me,
Well,
bro. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
But look, like, they had moved on, and in my mind,
You knew it was going somewhere
They did
else.
what I thought they were going to do.
Yeah.
So then it was like, all right, well, what are my options? And it was, the Miami Dolphins, which was a really unique scenario because it was Nick Saban. Nick Saban, right, had left LSU, become the head coach there in 06, 05. They'd had a really good season. They'd gone 9-7. They had won their last 7 games in a row. So they started off 2-7 and then won 7 in a row. But really what they were missing was a quarterback. Like, they had a great defense. And they were running the exact same offense with the same terminology as what we ran with the Chargers. Because Jason Garrett was their quarterback coach. Their O-line coach had been our O-line coach the year before. So they'd hired him away from us. And then Mike Mularkey was the OC, but they were literally running same offense, same terminology. So I'm like, oh man, like, the transition here is great. They have pretty good personnel. They just need a quarterback. I mean, honestly, they were like, everything was teed up. They just need a quarterback. And like, I went down there, I had a great visit. Like, everything was awesome there. The only thing with that visit was I spent 6 hours in the hospital because they were like doing these, saline solution,
MRI,
contrast MRIs, and like nerve ending tests, sticking needles in my arm. And it was just like, enough, Whereas I go to New Orleans, right? That being the other option. And it's like, and city totally devastated. Sean Payton, this unknown head coach, just hired from Dallas, like, has no idea what he's getting into here. Is the team even going to stay in New Orleans? There's talk about him going to San Antonio, like, so many unknowns.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So much, like, and quite honestly, the Saints had a reputation of being somewhat dysfunctional, like team, locker room,
no doubt.
Mess, and that was kind of previous regime. And obviously, Sean Payton coming into new sheriff in town, but nonetheless, on paper, it was like, okay, here's the 2 choices, and the obvious choice is, the Miami Dolphins.
So you get to New Orleans in 06, obviously, and the rest is history, right? Finish your career with crazy 13 Pro Bowls, 5-time APL Pro, 1 first team, 4 second team, 2-time AP Offensive Player of the Year, 08, 11, 2004 AP Comeback Player of the Year. Oh, that was with that. But 06 Walter Payton Man of the Year. 06, you guys go to Chicago in the NFC Championship game, which I remember watching. And I'm like, oh my God, this dude first year had just torn his shoulder. They're in the championship game. 07, 08 happened. And then look, picture story book ending in 2009. We start 13-0. Talk to me about the 09 season, because I wasn't even with you guys in training camp. I got there first part of the season, and I'm just a fly on the wall behind you and Mark Brunell. Did you feel good going into the 09 season? And did you ever think you guys, we would start 13-0 that season?
Going into the 09 season, we were sure we were going to win it all. 06, like you said, storybook season, like, we all come together. Sean Payton's first year, all of us, like, coming to New Orleans by all sorts of different means, and we played way over our head, right? I mean, we just had the city like on our back, like, just, man, and we make it so far. And then I think 07 was a bit of a reality check, like, we're not as good as we think we are, right? We definitely have some holes to fill, some pieces still to pieces of the puzzle to add. And so, disappointing season. And then 08 was just inconsistent. And yet we felt like, man, we're getting closer. And then 09 was like, dude, we have all the pieces. And it was the most competitive offseason I've ever been a part of. Like, going at it every day. Yeah. And knowing that, like, man, when we get into the season here, like, we're not going to play against anybody that's better than what we're going against every day in practice. Like that was kind of the mentality. That's the way we felt about our defense. That's the way defense felt about our offense.
Defense was
And
insane
so
that year.
as we got started there in 09, I remember we opened up Detroit at home. Poor Matthew Stafford as a rookie.
Yep.
And
I
and
remember.
then we go to Philadelphia.
Go to Philly. Yep.
Blast them, right?
Yep.
And so then it's like, oh my gosh, like everybody's like, we got to contend with these guys. And then there was just a mentality, man. Every time we stepped on the field, we were going to break a record. We were going to do something that's never been done before. We were going to show you something that's just going to surprise you. Like, so there was just this momentum that then was created. And honestly, it was like we knew by midseason, look, Brett Favre had gone to the Vikings, right? And they were having a phenomenal year.
Brett Favre was balling.
And then in the AFC, Peyton Manning and the Colts looked like they were unbeatable.
Rolling,
so literally, as that season started, it was like we knew that we were on this track, and we're like, we're going to play the Vikings in the NFC Championship, and then we're going to go beat the Colts in the Super Bowl. Like we knew exactly what that road was going to look like.
So, being a part of the locker room, it was like, man, we can't lose, and then we lose 3 in a row to end the season. Now, I know one of those we rest. Mark Manell plays against Carolina, but I think did we lose to Dallas first loss?
Yeah, we lost to Dallas on Saturday night. I'll never forget that.
Yep.
Like the one thing from that game was, you remember DeMarcus Ware? They had played, it was a Saturday game, right? So 6-day rest. So the Sunday before, DeMarcus Ware had literally been carted off the field with a neck injury. Dude, so that whole week we didn't prepare for DeMarcus Ware. So we built this whole game plan with DeMarcus Ware not playing. And we literally walk out for the coin toss, and DeMarcus Ware runs out there like fresh as a daisy. And we're like,
I remember what? That. No protection plan at all.
You're playing today? and he kind of wrecked our day. And look, we didn't play well as an offense, and they played pretty well. So they beat us, right? And then Tampa beat us the next week, 35-32. But that's when Hartley missed that kick, 40-yard in overtime. And actually, I think it was like right at the end of regulation, maybe.
It was right at the end of regulation.
And then they got the ball in overtime and went right down the field and kicked the field goal and beat us. But like when you look back on it, you're like, man, we needed that to happen, right? Because then here we are, fast forward to a month later, we're sitting here ready to win the NFC Championship game and to go to the Super Bowl, and Hartley's kicking the ball from the exact same spot, right? And he just busted through. So, that was how we finished it. But like, I mean, you were in the locker room. Like there was a lot of noise on the outside, and yet we knew like it's mentally exhausting, right? To go through a season and to carry a little bit of that burden, like the undefeated. And then, so going into the last 3 weeks, I think for us, it was like, look, we've solidified the number 1 seed. We know that we need rest. Like there's certain guys that really need rest, like winning this last game of the season, and like having this perceived momentum that everybody is talking about. What's more important is that we're healthy, we're rested, we're ready to go when the first round of the playoffs comes around. And that's what we did.
Obviously,
proved as well.
Ends in a Super Bowl trophy. Everyone remembers you holding up Balin, which is crazy because now Balin's really old, and I was there when he was born. It's just nuts. Quickly before the 2011 season, how disappointing was that season? Because I remember we were rolling, one of the best offenses in NFL history. And then we lose that heartbreaker at the 49ers. I felt like we were a better team in 11. How did you feel going into 11? I know we started slow. Sean Payton gets hurt on the sideline that year in Tampa. And I just felt like we had one of the best offenses in the history of the game.
I mean, 11 was the best. That was the best. I think that was the best team, kind of top to bottom that we had while we were there. That was definitely a year where, we felt like we were going to go win it all again. Especially since, we'd won it in 09. So like a lot of the same core pieces in place, and like we knew what it took, and like, if you recall, we had, our first round of the playoffs in 11, we played Detroit, and we put up 500 yards of total offense.
Smoked them.
And then
we go at home.
We go to San Francisco, which was definitely the best defense in the league that year. They were stacked. You remember how good that defense was?
The linebacking core was insane. Justin Smith, Alden Smith.
Yeah, we put up 500 yards in that game.
But we had what,
them.
5 turnovers, or did we have 7?
Or we had 4 turnovers.
4.
But we put up 500 yards of offense, and we scored 32 points. Bottom line is we took the lead with like a minute left in the game, right? We should have
long Jimmy Graham pass.
And had we won that game, then we would have gone and played. We would have hosted the Giants. We beat like 50-14 earlier in the year.
So it had to be frustrating.
Like that year for us, I think all of us look at and say, man, we had the best team in football. In my opinion, we had the best team in football that year. And then, look, 2017, you were going to Minnesota, the Minneapolis Miracle.
Minnesota Miracle. Oh my God.
That's another one where like the way that we started playing in the playoffs, and man, had we come back from 17 down and beat, Minnesota, then we would have gone to Philly.
Go to Philly.
Philly ended up winning it all and having.
We would have given a better game though than Minnesota did.
I think. Oh, for sure. I mean, look, our offense was rolling at that time, and I felt like our defense was starting to play really well too. And then obviously 2018 was a year that we all felt like we had the best team in football. So a couple of those, it just goes to show you how hard it is to win it all. Because there were years where there was 2 other years, 11 and 18, where I felt like we had the best team in football.
Was 18 the PI?
Yes. Yeah.
What was the most, so between those, I mean, you 17, 11, 18 was the most frustrating year for you personally? Like that you were like, man, this is
18, just 18 mainly because like I think we could have played, I think we could have played better in the playoffs, and yet I felt like we were, look, if we get that call, then we run the clock down to 1 second.
Yeah, you win.
We go to the Super Bowl.
100%.
But we go to the Super Bowl with a massive chip on our shoulder, right? Because we recognize that we haven't played as well as we need to. And we would have been going up against Belichick, the Patriots, Tom Brady. And, they're trying to make history. We're trying to make history. And it would have just been an epic matchup,
Dude, before we let you go, I want to respect your time. You're a great storyteller. So post-career, right? You retire and you get into broadcasting, then get out of broadcasting because it's just too much time for you away from the family, stuff like that. But now this is dropping on Christmas Day. You're going to be in studio for Netflix. And it seems to me that through chatter that you want to get back into broadcasting. Talk to me about the broadcasting career, if it's something you see yourself doing for a little bit longer here coming up.
Yeah, look, I feel like I found myself on every side of the game now. Obviously as a player and coaching my kids, doing the broadcasting thing, both broadcasting games, but also being in studio, being on the sideline, being part of the set, on game day.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gotten exposure to all of it, right? Look, I love the game, man. I love talking about the game. I love watching film. I love preparing and like staying ahead of the game.
Yep.
The reality is that nobody sees the game or can predict the game like us. Those who have played the quarterback position at the highest level for a long period of time, have the ability to, I think, communicate the game in a way that is just different. And I love doing that. And I think broadcasting, especially primetime games in some of the biggest moments with some of the best matchups, with some of the best quarterbacks, like that's where I think we can really provide some incredible insight. And I know that just even as I sit on my couch with my boys and watch games, like we sit there and just, man,
we're wired differently.
We break down and like it's awesome, and that's the way I think about broadcasting is as I'm sitting in the living room with everybody, just talking ball, right, and giving them a perspective that is so unique to anything that they've ever heard. And so, yeah, would I love to do that again? Absolutely, and I think the timing is right. I think the timing is right with where my kids are now, where the family is, and what I've had a chance to do over the last couple of years, and coaching my kids and get them to high school, and now they're playing high school ball, and wow. I mean, this is awesome. So yeah, I would love to get back in the booth with the right opportunity, with the right people.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, look, way past the time that I told you. We said 20 minutes. This has been like an hour, but you were great, man. Just appreciate everything you've done for me. I know Saints fans 100% appreciate everything you have done for them as well. So, man, we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, bro.
You got it, man.